The soup had already gone cold. I sat alone at our dining table, turning my spoon through the same bowl without taking another bite. Across from me, Claire's chair stayed empty again. It had become the quietest person in our house. My phone rested beside my plate. 7:14 p.m. No message. No call. I picked it up anyway. Dinner's ready. Drive safely. I press send. The message showed one gray check. Unread. A slow breath escaped my lips. This wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the 10th. Still, I waited. The front porch lights switched on automatically as darkness covered the street. I watched its pale glow through the window and smiled to myself. Maybe tonight. Those two words had become a habit. Every evening, I believed something would change. Every evening, I was wrong. The clock reached 8, then 9. The soup had turned cold enough to leave a thin layer on top. I finally carried both bowls into the kitchen. One full, one barely touched. The sink was beginning to know our marriage better than either of us. While washing the dishes, my eyes landed on the framed wedding picture sitting near the coffee machine. Claire's smile in that photo could still warm a room. I wondered where that woman had gone. Back then, she laughed at my terrible jokes. She stole fries from my plate. She reached for my hand without thinking. Now she barely looked at me. The sound of keys finally broke the silence. The front door opened. Claire walked in wearing a sharp white suit, her laptop bag hanging from one shoulder. She looked exhausted. Beautiful. Far away. You waited again. Her voice was flat, almost automatic. I made your favorite soup. She glanced toward the kitchen. I'm not hungry. I can warm it. No need. She loosened her hair while walking toward the stairs. We had dinner after the meeting. Another meeting. Another dinner. Another evening without us. I texted you. She checked her phone for barely a second. Oh, nothing else. No apology. No smile. No explanation. Just, oh. She disappeared upstairs before I could think of another sentence. A few seconds later, I heard the shower running. The house became quiet again. Only this time, she was inside it. Somehow that felt even lonelier. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. Coffee, breakfast, an iron jacket waiting near the door. The small things had always been my way of saying I love you. Claire walked downstairs while reading emails. She picked up the coffee. Tastes good. 3 words. Not even looking up. I'll be late tonight. You've been late every night. Her fingers stopped above the screen for a heartbeat. Building a company isn't easy. I know. Do you? That question stayed in the air. She grabbed her bag. Sometimes I think you're happy staying exactly where you are. The front door closed before I found an answer. I stood there holding my own coffee until it became cold. Just like dinner. Daniel called around noon. You sound tired. I'm fine. He laughed softly. You've used those 2 words for years. I'm working. No. His voice turned serious. You're surviving. I leaned back in my chair. Marriage takes patience. Marriage takes 2 people. I didn't answer. Daniel knew me too well. You can't keep pouring water into a bucket with holes. I'm not giving up. Maybe you're the only one still fighting. The call ended, but his words stayed with me. 3 days later, Claire invited me to her company's annual celebration. You should come. A tiny smile appeared. It would mean something. Those words lit a small hope inside me. Maybe this was our chance. Maybe she remembered us. I spent nearly an hour choosing a tie. On my way there, I stopped at a jewelry store. Not because it was our anniversary. Not because I had done anything wrong. I simply wanted to remind her that love didn't need a special date. The silver bracelet fit inside a small blue box. Simple, elegant, just like the woman I married. The ballroom overflowed with music and applause. People surrounded Claire the moment she walked onto the stage. She looked confident, powerful, happy. I couldn't remember the last time she smiled like that at home. She accepted an award while cameras flashed around her. I couldn't have done this alone. Applause filled the room. She thanked investors, her employees, business partners, her mother, then Adrian. He stood near the front with an easy smile. Claire looked directly at him. Your guidance changed my life. More applause. I waited. Surely she wasn't finished. Her eyes swept across the crowd. They passed right over me. Nothing. Not even a glance. The applause faded. Someone near my table smiled politely. Aren't you Claire's husband? I am. You must be proud. I am. The words came out automatically. Inside, something cracked. Later, during conversations and laughter, I finally reached Claire. You were amazing. She accepted the gift without opening it. Thanks. I thought maybe we could celebrate together. She glanced toward Adrian, who was waiting across the room. I'm busy. It'll only take a few minutes. A tired breath escaped her. Ethan, people nearby slowed their conversations. You've never really understood ambition. The sentence landed harder than any shout. She wasn't angry. She wasn't emotional. She sounded certain, as though she had accepted it as fact. Adrian walked closer. We need to meet the investors. Claire nodded immediately. I'll be there. She left with him. The small blue gift box remained unopened in her hand. I stood alone while conversations quietly restarted around me. Nobody there knew the truth. Nobody knew that years ago, when Claire's business almost collapsed before it even began, anonymous funding had saved it. My funding, money from the company I secretly owned. I never wanted credit. I only wanted to see her succeed. Watching her shine had once been enough. Tonight it wasn't. I slipped my phone from my pocket. My message from that morning still waited on the screen. Good luck today. I know you'll do great. I'm proud of you. Unread. I smiled without meaning to. Somehow that hurt more than the speech. I walked out before dessert was served. The night air felt colder than usual. Every step home seemed lighter. Not because the pain had faded, because I had finally stopped carrying hope for a few minutes. When I reached our house, voices drifted from the open patio door. Claire and Adrian. I wasn't trying to listen. Then I heard my name. I can't keep living like this. Claire sounded exhausted. Adrian stayed quiet. She let out a long breath. Leaving Ethan might be the only way for my life to finally move forward. My hand froze on the doorknob. The house behind that door no longer felt like home. I stood outside my own front door long after Claire's words faded into the night. Leaving Ethan might be the only way for my life to finally move forward. The sentence kept repeating inside my head. Not louder, just clearer. I never opened the patio door. There was nothing left to hear. I walked around the house instead, entered through the front, and climbed the stairs as quietly as I could. Claire wasn't home yet. She had gone back outside with Adrian. That gave me time, not to think. Thinking had kept me trapped for years. This time I acted. The bedroom felt strangely unfamiliar. Half the closet belonged to me. At least it used to. I pulled a suitcase from the top shelf. Dust covered the handle. I smiled to myself. I guess even this forgot what it was made for. The zipper echoed through the room. One shirt, another, a few pairs of jeans. Family photos stopped my hand. Our honeymoon, Christmas, the day we bought this house. In every picture, I was smiling at Claire. In every picture, she was smiling at the camera. I placed the photos back inside the drawer. Some memories deserved to stay where they belonged. My fingers slipped off my wedding ring. The pale mark around my finger stayed behind. Funny how skin remembered what the heart was trying to forget. I carried the ring downstairs. A blank sheet of paper waited beside the kitchen counter. The pen hovered for nearly a minute. I wanted to write about every lonely dinner, every unread message, every promise that slowly disappeared. Instead, I wrote only a few lines. Claire, I spent years believing patience could fix distance. Love should never feel like asking permission to exist. I'm choosing to stop chasing someone who has already walked away. Take care of yourself. Ethan. I folded the letter once. My wedding ring rested on top. The morning sun hadn't even reached the windows when I quietly closed the front door behind me. Nobody stopped me. Nobody knew I was leaving. The apartment wasn't much. One bedroom, small kitchen, old wooden floors that creaked whenever I walked. The landlord apologized before handing me the keys. It's not fancy. I looked around the empty room. It doesn't have to be. It already offered something my house hadn't given me in a long time. Peace. I placed my suitcase beside the bed. There wasn't much to unpack. Years of marriage had somehow turned into one suitcase. Around noon, my phone vibrated. Claire. Her name stayed on the screen. I watched it ring until it stopped. A message appeared seconds later. Where are you? Another one. You left your ring. Then another. Are you trying to make a point? I locked the phone. No answer. Not because I wanted revenge, because every answer I had ever given was ignored until now. Daniel arrived that evening carrying 2 paper bags. Burgers. You always know what I need. I know what hungry people need. He glanced around the apartment. So, this is really happening. I nodded. It's over. He sat across from me without touching his food. I wanted you to leave for years. I know, but I never wanted it to happen like this. Neither did I. He reached into one bag and handed me a soda. You don't have to become cold. I'm not trying to. Good. His voice softened. Just don't become invisible again. The next few days felt strangely quiet. Nobody asked where I was. Nobody expected dinner. Nobody forgot to come home. The silence no longer hurt. It rested beside me like an old friend. Each morning I went for a walk before work. Each evening I cooked one meal. Simple routines. Simple peace. Then my phone rang again. Claire. This time I answered. Her breathing reached me before her words. So, you're done? I'm living somewhere else. You could have talked to me. I tried. A long pause. You'll come back after you've calmed down. I'm calm now. You don't mean this. I left my ring. Another pause. I've been busy. I noticed. Ethan. The sound of my name almost broke me. Almost. I hope your meeting tomorrow goes well. She seemed confused. You're wishing me luck? I always did. The call ended. No shouting. No blame. Just 2 people standing on opposite sides of something neither of us could cross anymore. Couldn't stop working. That part reached me through mutual friends. Long meetings. Late nights. Business dinners. Adrian beside her almost everywhere. Apparently nothing had changed. At least that was what everyone believed. Until small cracks started appearing. One afternoon she called again. I didn't answer. Another message arrived. Your mail is still coming here. The next day, the coffee machine stopped working. Then, where did you keep the insurance papers? None of those messages mentioned missing me. They mentioned everything I used to do. Days later, another text appeared. The house feels strange. I read it twice. Still no reply. Because she wasn't missing me. She was missing my presence. Those were 2 different things. A week later, I met Maya at her office. She had been my friend since college. More importantly, she was one of the few people who knew every part of my life. She placed a thick folder on the table. Divorce papers. My hand rested on the cover. So this is what forever turned into. It doesn't have to be signed today. I know. She poured 2 cups of coffee. Neither of us touched them. You still love her. Yes. And I finally love myself enough to stop begging. A small smile crossed her face. That's the answer I hoped to hear. She opened the folder. We can still pause everything. I shook my head. If I keep waiting for Claire to choose me, I'll spend the rest of my life waiting. Maya nodded slowly. Healing begins the day you stop chasing someone who keeps walking away. The words settled quietly inside me. Not because they erased the pain, because they finally gave it direction. I signed the first document. The pen felt heavier than expected. One signature, one deep breath, one chapter closing. That same evening, Claire returned home after another exhausting meeting. The letter still rested on the kitchen counter. My ring remained exactly where I had left it. She carried both upstairs. Maybe curiosity, maybe guilt, maybe neither. While searching for important financial documents inside my old desk, another folder slipped onto the floor. Papers scattered across the carpet. Claire bent down to gather them. Then she froze. Across several legal documents appeared the same elegant signature. The signature belonged to a mysterious billionaire investor whose name had quietly shaped the future of her company for years. Claire stared at the handwriting. Her fingers tightened around the papers. Something about that signature looked painfully familiar. The divorce papers stayed on my kitchen table for 3 days. Every time I walked past them, I reminded myself that a signature could end a marriage on paper, but healing would take much longer. My phone stayed quiet. Claire had stopped sending messages. That silence felt different, not peaceful. Searching, I could almost imagine her sitting in my old office at home, turning pages, connecting details she had ignored for years. The secret I had protected with my whole heart had finally begun finding its own way into the light. Maya arrived one afternoon carrying another folder. The court accepted the filing. I nodded. So, it's official. The process has started. She studied my face. No second thoughts. I've had thousands of second thoughts. And they always end at the same place. My eyes drifted toward the window. The woman I loved stopped choosing me a long time ago. Maya didn't argue. She simply placed a fresh cup of coffee beside me. You've hidden your truth for years. I know. Maybe it's time to stop carrying it alone. I smiled without humor. I wasn't hiding because I was ashamed. I know. I was hiding because I wanted someone to love Ethan, not everything attached to Ethan. Most people believed I worked an ordinary office job. That wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. Years before I met Claire, life had taught me how quickly money could change people. My parents died while I was still young. Daniel became more than a brother. He became family, teacher, and protector all at once. We never had much. There were nights when dinner meant sharing one sandwich. Cold winters where broken heaters became normal. I promised myself something during those years. If I ever escaped poverty, I would never let money decide who truly loved me. That promise shaped everything afterward. I built software in a tiny apartment. One project became two. Two became 10. A small startup slowly grew into one of the fastest growing technology companies in the country. Nobody connected my name to it. The company belonged to another public identity, a legal name created to protect my privacy. Only a handful of people knew the truth. Daniel, Maya, a few trusted executives. That was enough. Then I met Claire. She loved my quiet nature, or at least I believe she did. Back then, she laughed at my simple apartment. Not because it was small, because she imagined how we could decorate it together. Those memories still hurt the most. They reminded me that love had once been real. My phone buzzed. Claire. I stared at the screen before answering. Ethan. Her voice sounded different, less confident. I found some papers. I know. I left them at my desk. A slow breath reached me. Why didn't you ever tell me? Tell you what? About the investor. I rested against the kitchen counter. What difference would it make now? It makes every difference. Does it? Another pause. I need answers. You needed them years ago. The line stayed quiet. Finally, she whispered, please. I have a meeting. The call ended before she could stop me. Not because I wanted to punish her. Because I finally understood the value of protecting my own peace. Claire wasn't the only person asking questions. Someone else had noticed strange connections inside her company's records. Adrian. He had always been clever. Too clever. By following investment reports and legal documents, he reached the same conclusion Claire had started uncovering. Anonymous funding, private holding companies, hidden ownership. Every path eventually pointed toward me. 2 days later, I walked into the headquarters of my technology company. The receptionist smiled warmly. Good morning, Mr. Carter. Morning. Executives greeted me in the hallway. Meetings began exactly on schedule. This world had always known who I really was. No pretending, no hiding, no shrinking myself. During lunch, my assistant entered with a worried expression. Someone is downstairs asking to see you. Ooh, Mrs. Carter. I closed my notebook. Tell her I'm busy. A moment later, the assistant returned. She's refusing to leave. I took a slow breath. 5 minutes. Claire stood near the large windows overlooking the city. She turned as I entered. For a second, she simply stared. Not at the office. At me. This. Her eyes moved around the room. This is yours. Yes. You own all of this. I built it. She lowered herself into a chair, as if her legs suddenly felt weak. I don't understand. I never wanted money to become the reason someone stayed. You let me believe. I'll let you believe I had an ordinary job. You watched me struggle. I helped. Confusion crossed her face. What do you mean? I opened a cabinet and removed an old folder. Inside were investment agreements, transfer records, private contracts. Every page carried the same hidden signature. The anonymous funding that saved your first company. She flipped through the papers with shaking hands. No, the emergency loan when your investors pulled out. Another page. The office building. Another. The payroll during your second year. Tears gathered in her eyes. That was you. I never wanted credit. Why? Because every success felt more meaningful if you believed it belonged to you. She covered her mouth. I thanked everyone except you did. I called you someone who didn't understand ambition. You did. I was standing on the future you quietly built. The room became painfully still. No dramatic shouting. No accusations. Just documents spread across a table between two people who suddenly realized how different the truth had been. Claire reached toward me. Her fingers stopped halfway. I never really knew you. No, I thought you were ordinary. She couldn't answer. The silence answered instead. Later that evening, Daniel joined me for dinner. You finally told her. I didn't plan to, but you did. The truth was already walking toward her. He nodded. And how do you feel? I thought about it. Lighter. Good. He smiled. Now protect that peace. The next morning, Maya rushed into my office. We have a problem. What happened? She placed a newspaper on my desk. An article circled in red mentioned rumors surrounding an anonymous billionaire connected to Claire's company. No names, just speculation. I already knew where it came from. Adrian. He must have figured it out. He'll want something. Money never interested men like Adrian as much as power did. Secrets were simply another way to control people. That afternoon, Claire called again. This time her voice carried panic instead of confusion. Don't meet Adrian. I'm already on my way. He knows about your company. I know. He wants to use your identity. I know. Ethan, please wait. I ended the call, not out of anger, because some conversations had to happen face to face. Adrian waited inside a private conference room. His smile appeared the moment I entered. So the quiet husband turns out to be the billionaire. You've done your homework. He leaned back comfortably. We can help each other. I'm listening. Claire never has to know everything. A folder slid across the table. Partner with me publicly. And if I refuse? His smile grew wider. Secrets have a way of becoming headlines. I didn't touch the folder. Instead, I removed another document from my briefcase. A termination notice. Every remaining financial connection between me and Claire's company. Every anonymous investment. Every hidden protection. Gone. My signature landed on the final page. The door burst open. Claire stood there, breathing hard. No, don't. She was only a few seconds too late. The pen left the paper. The last tie connecting our lives was gone. The news spread faster than either of us expected. By the end of the week, every business website carried the same story. Confidential information from Claire's company had been leaked. Private contracts, future projects, investor plans. The damage was impossible to hide. I already knew where it came from. Adrian had finally shown everyone the man he had always been. He didn't care about loyalty, only opportunity. The moment he realized he couldn't control me, he found another way to protect himself. He sacrificed Claire without hesitation. My phone rang early the next morning. Maya's voice sounded calm, but I could hear the concern beneath it. Adrian is blaming Claire. I expected that. He claimed she approved everything. She didn't. I know. She paused for a moment. The truth will come out. It always does. But sometimes it arrives after everything is already broken. Her words stayed with me long after the call ended. Some truths saved people. Others simply explained why they had been hurt. A few days later, I passed the cafe where Claire and I used to spend Saturday mornings. She was sitting alone by the window. No coworkers. No business partners. No Adrian. The chair across from her was empty, just like mine had been at our dining table. She noticed me through the glass. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she hurried outside. Ethan, please. The wind pushed a strand of hair across her face. You have a minute? I checked my watch. I have 5. She nodded quickly. I deserve that. We stood on the sidewalk while people walked around us. I know about Adrian. So do I. I trusted the wrong person. You did. I thought success would fix everything. It didn't. Her shoulders dropped. I kept believing there would always be time to repair us. There wasn't. She closed her eyes for a moment. I never understood how lonely you were. You never had to. What does that mean? You weren't the one eating cold dinners. Those words landed harder than any accusation. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I gave her a small nod and continued walking. This time she didn't try to stop me. Maybe she finally understood that chasing me for one afternoon could never repay the years I spent chasing our marriage. Another week passed. Reports about Claire's company became worse. Several investors withdrew. Board members resigned. The people who once celebrated beside her quietly disappeared. Success had attracted them. Failure revealed who they really were. Daniel visited my apartment that weekend. "You've seen the news?" "I have." "You don't seem happy." "I'm not." "You don't seem angry either." "I thought about that. I spent too much energy carrying anger. And now, I'd rather carry peace." He smiled. "I barely recognize you. I barely recognize myself." That evening, an unexpected knock echoed through my apartment. Margaret stood outside. Claire's mother had never visited me before, not once during our marriage. She held her purse tightly with both hands. "May I come in?" I stepped aside. She looked around the small apartment. "So this is where you've been?" "It is." She remained standing. "I owe you an apology." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because I had imagined hearing those words for years. "I judged you. I know. I thought Claire needed someone richer." A tired smile crossed my face. "That's a little ironic." She lowered her head. "I know the truth now. Neither of us mentioned my company. We didn't need to." I pushed her towards status. "You did." I told her love wasn't enough. And now, tears filled her eyes. "Now I know status isn't enough." The room grew quiet. She reached into her purse and removed an old photograph. Our wedding day. "I found this in Claire's room. I accepted it carefully. She keeps looking at it. I hope it reminds her of something good. It reminds her of what she destroyed." Before leaving, Margaret stopped at the door. If she had listened to her heart instead of me. The sentence remained unfinished. Some endings didn't need words. A few days later, Claire called. "Can we meet at the house?" "Our house." A shaky breath reached me. One last time, I almost refused. Instead, I answered quietly, "Tomorrow." Walking through the front door felt strange. The rooms looked exactly the same, only smaller. Maybe memories always took up more space than furniture. Claire stood in the living room. Her eyes immediately drifted toward the wall. The wedding photo was gone. Only a lighter square remained where the frame had once hung. "You removed it." I packed it away. She nodded slowly. I noticed. The dining table still stood near the kitchen. She ran her fingers across the surface. "I kept expecting you to set another plate. You didn't notice how often I already had." She swallowed hard. "I notice everything now. That's the problem." She turned toward the stairs. "My closet. My side is empty. It feels wrong." It felt wrong long before I left. We walked into the study. The signed divorce papers rested neatly inside a folder. She stared at them without touching them. "So it's real." It has been real for a while. Her eyes landed on an old phone sitting inside the drawer. "My old phone. You forgot it." She picked it up. The battery still had enough power to turn on. A message notification appeared immediately. Her own name. She opened it. The screen showed the text I had sent before her award ceremony. "Good luck today. I know you'll do great. I'm proud of you." Unread. The date beneath it seemed to steal the air from the room. She kept staring. I never opened it. "I know. I don't even remember missing it." "I know." Tears rolled silently down her face. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just steady. She scrolled farther. Good morning messages. Simple reminders to eat lunch. Questions asking if she arrived safely. Birthday wishes. Anniversary plans. Small pieces of love buried under weeks of silence. Her hands trembled. It wasn't one mistake. No, it was thousands. I nodded. Heartbreak usually grows that way. She placed the phone back into the drawer with incredible care. I kept waiting for one big moment to fix us. There wasn't one. I abandoned you little by little. You did. I thought love could survive without attention. It can't. She stepped closer. Not close enough to touch. Just close enough to see the regret in her eyes. "I can't give you back those years." "No, I don't expect forgiveness anymore." Those words surprised me. For the first time since all of this began, she wasn't asking me to erase the past. She was finally looking directly at it. "I only wanted you to know." Her voice almost disappeared. "That I understand now." I believed her. That was the tragedy. Understanding had arrived after everything worth saving had already broken. The morning of the divorce hearing arrived with gray skies. People filled the courthouse hallway. Lawyers, reporters, employees from Claire's company. Even Adrian stood at the far end, avoiding everyone's eyes. Claire walked into the courtroom without looking toward him. Instead, she stopped beside me. Her hands remained still at her sides. I need to tell the truth today. I searched her face. What truth? She lifted her chin. The kind that changes how everyone remembers our marriage. Without waiting for my answer, she stepped through the courtroom doors. The courtroom felt colder than the morning outside. Rows of wooden benches stretched behind me. Lawyers quietly arranged their files. A few reporters whispered to one another, waiting for another story about money, betrayal, and business. None of them knew the real reason we were there. This had never been about money. It had always been about two people who stopped choosing each other. Claire stood a few steps away. She wore the same calm expression she used during business meetings. Only her eyes were different. They no longer searched for victory. They searched for truth. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The hearing began. After several legal questions, Claire's attorney rose to speak. Before he could finish, Claire gently touched his arm. "I'll answer." The room turned toward her. She walked to the front without rushing. "I don't want this case to become another story about leaked documents or failed business deals." Her voice remained steady. "My husband never betrayed me." She stopped for a moment. "I betrayed him." The words settled across the courtroom. Nobody moved. Nobody interrupted. I spent years believing success would make every sacrifice worthwhile. Her fingers tightened around a folded piece of paper. I blamed work. I blamed pressure. I blamed impossible schedules. A slow breath escaped her. The truth is much simpler. She lifted her eyes toward me. I stopped seeing the man who loved me every single day. Even Adrian lowered his head. Claire continued. "He supported my dreams without asking for praise. He protected my future while I questioned his ambition. I accepted kindness as if it would always be waiting for me." Another pause. When he finally walked away, I called it an overreaction. She shook her head. It wasn't. It was the consequence of thousands of moments when I made him feel invisible. The courtroom stayed completely still. No dramatic argument could have carried more weight than those honest sentences. She turned toward the judge. "I accept responsibility for my choices. I don't expect this marriage to be saved. I only wanted the truth to be remembered." She quietly returned to her seat. My hands rested on the table. For a long time I had imagined hearing those words. Now that they finally arrived, they brought sadness instead of satisfaction. Truth could heal. It could never return lost years. The hearing continued. Evidence about Adrian's actions filled the room. Private emails, hidden financial records, messages proving he had leaked confidential information after failing to gain control of my company. He tried defending himself. "You have no proof that my intentions were." The attorney placed another document onto the table. His sentence disappeared. Another message appeared on the courtroom screen. Then another. Every excuse slowly collapsed beneath facts. Adrian left the courthouse surrounded by silence instead of admiration. His reputation had been built on manipulation. Now everyone knew it. Yet even that victory felt strangely small. His betrayal had damaged Claire's company. Claire's emotional neglect had damaged our marriage. Only one of those wounds could never be repaired. The judge slid the final divorce documents toward us. My pen rested above the signature line. Years of memories passed through my mind. Our wedding. Late-night pizza on our apartment floor. Her laughter while painting our first bedroom. Cold dinners. Unread messages. The empty chair. The packed suitcase. Everything existed together now. Both the beautiful parts and the painful ones. Claire signed first. She didn't hesitate. When the folder reached me, my hand remained steady. The ink dried almost immediately. That was it. No dramatic music. No shouting. Just two signatures ending a life we once believed would last forever. The judge wished us peace. More than anything else, I hoped those words would become true. Outside the courthouse, reporters rushed toward us. Questions flew through the air. "Mr. Carter, do you forgive your ex-wife? What happens to your companies now?" Will either of you make another statement? I kept walking. Claire stopped only once. There will be no more blame. Her voice carried across the crowd. Please allow us to move forward. That was all. For the first time since I met her, she chose quiet over appearances. Months passed. Life didn't become perfect. It became honest. My company continued growing. New offices opened. Young developers filled meeting rooms with ideas that reminded me of my younger self. Every Friday afternoon, I hosted a mentoring session. No cameras, no headlines, just people trying to build something meaningful. One nervous college student stayed behind after everyone else left. I don't think anyone will believe in my idea. I smiled. The first person who has to believe in it is you. What if I fail? Then learn. What if people laugh? They will. He frowned. That doesn't sound encouraging. It isn't supposed to. I leaned back in my chair. Build something because you believe in it, not because you need everyone else to. He smiled before leaving. Watching him walk away felt strangely familiar. Years ago, I had needed someone to tell me those same words. Now I could be that person for someone else. Daniel visited my office one evening. You've changed. I hope so. You smile more. I sleep better too. He laughed. I almost missed the old, stubborn version of you. I don't. He grew serious. Any regrets? I thought carefully. I regret staying silent for too long. And Claire, I hope she finds peace. You still care. I always will. He nodded slowly. Caring doesn't always mean going back. No, it doesn't. I heard small updates about Claire through mutual friends. She stepped away from several leadership roles. She apologized to former employees. She rebuilt her company with fewer promises and more honesty. No grand interviews. No public campaign asking for sympathy. She simply worked, quietly. The lesson she carried every day was heavier than any punishment a court could give. Almost a year after the divorce, I returned to our old house to finish selling it. Most of the rooms were empty. Only echoes remained. A car stopped outside. Claire stepped out holding something in her hand. The old house key. I found this. She placed it gently into my palm. I thought you should have it. Thank you. Neither of us rushed to fill the silence. The empty rooms spoke loudly enough. She glanced toward the dining room. I still remember that soup. I smiled faintly. I remember making it. I never came home. No. A soft breeze drifted through the open window. She wrapped her arms around herself. I wanted to tell you something. I waited. You were never ordinary. A sad smile appeared on her face. I was too blind to notice an extraordinary heart. My eyes wandered toward the front door. You don't owe me those words anymore. I know. She nodded. I needed to say them anyway. There were no promises. No request for another chance. No desperate goodbye. Only acceptance. She turned toward her car. Halfway there, she looked back. Take care of yourself, Ethan. You too, Claire. She smiled. A real one. Not because everything had been fixed. Because she had finally stopped pretending. I watched her drive away until the road became empty again. The house felt lighter. Maybe because there were no more unfinished conversations hiding inside it. I walked through each room one last time. The bedroom, the kitchen, the dining table where I had waited through so many lonely nights. At the front door, I paused. The key turned with a quiet click. I locked the house. Not with anger, with gratitude. It had taught me the hardest lesson of my life. My biggest secret had never been the fortune I built in silence. It was how long I believed my love alone could carry a marriage. Love needs two people. Patience needs hope. And self-respect begins the moment I stop begging someone to see my worth. Outside, the afternoon sun warmed my face. My phone rested in my hand. Claire's name still remained in my contacts. I looked at it one last time. Then I pressed delete. The screen asked if I was sure. This time, I didn't hesitate. Yes. The contact disappeared. I slipped the phone into my pocket and walked toward my car. Not as the man who had been left behind. As the man I had finally become.